Welcome to the Murabiyoon Show, raising awareness of Islamic schools.
Ustadh, back with another episode, and this episode is based around the famous principle that most of us know, the 7-7-7 Tarbiyah cycle. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, before we come to the cycle, let's quickly refer to the ayah that was displayed in the beginning of this episode, which is teaching us a hukm, right? If we just read about it, it's about when the children reach the age of puberty, let them seek permission to come in as their seniors do. Beautiful ayah, the hukm we understand, but what is the message in here? The message is that we have an obligation of teaching. You know, like we said in the first episode, Tarbiyah.
Yep.
And teaching here is not just tell, but show by example as well. And nurture and care. It's not like, oh, you didn't ask and smack and whatnot. There must be the sort of empathy in there and support and care. And so that is one aspect from the ayah that we can also learn. And also, from this ayah, the key word as well is puberty. There is a certain age when you teach that. You don't teach a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old child to seek permission, you know, when they're dependent on their mother, on their father, when they don't know what's happening around them, have no clue. You wait until a certain time when puberty comes, and then you ask them, then you teach them. So there's a certain approach, which brings us now to this principle of 7-7-7 that is often referred to as a hadith, but in essence it's not a hadith. Wallahu alam. It's not marfu' to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam authentically. Sometimes referred to Ali radiallahu anhu. Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions it in his book At-Tibb al-Ruhani. In English it's called Disciplining the Soul. Around the 100-page mark, somewhere there you can find it. And he refers to it as, wise people say. And the principle goes basically, you can read it word by word there, but that there is the first 7 years that you treat your child like a flower. And then you treat them for the next 7 years like a servant. And then for the next 7 years, so you have 7, and then you have until 14, and then the next 7, you treat your child like a friend.
Okay.
You can read the exact wording, but this is the famous 7-7-7 principle, if you want to refer to it like that, which is a beautiful principle.
So let's dive straight in. The first 7 years, when you refer to treating your child like a flower, what does that mean?
Well, let me ask you then. Let me put the mirror up, inshallah. What do you think? How do we? What is telling about, like a flower? What do you do with a flower?
Care for it.
Care.
Love. You're gentle with it.
Yes.
And you admire it as well for its beauty and what it kind of offers you.
So you see that a lot of books of Tarbiyah and pedagogy in Islamic books of pedagogy speak about this first phase, and you can see that there is an overlap and a clear link to what we know from modern psychology today as well. That the first 7 years are really, really telling when it comes to growing the emotional side of a child. Okay? So these aspects that you mentioned, the care, the love, the focus on the love as well. Also the love for Allah and the love from Allah as well. Focusing on that love first before we go to teaching them about Jahannam and punishment and whatnot. It's important, and there is an aspect to it, but you see the first 7 years when this Tarbiyah has to focus on these things are really, really telling, really, really important, like a flower. As you said, admire, show them support, mentor, nurture, help them grow, play with them. Yeah. We will later see how the Prophet ﷺ played with children, the positive mindset he had with children, and so on and so forth. So these are the first 7 years, really, really crucial about developing the emotional literacy of a child, that part of the fitrah, of the character as well.
Okay. Let's move on to the next 7 years.
Yeah.
The next 7 years, what do we start to see then? What are the what do we understand from this principle about what the ideal environment structure looks like?
Right. So, as we mentioned in the first episode, this is when they starting to differentiate.
Okay.
The age of tamiz, yani 6, 7, 8 years old, يميز بين الخير والشر. It's the child starts to differentiate between what is good and what is wrong,
Okay.
what is right and what isn't, in that sense. And so the child starts to develop this sense of good and bad, right and wrong. And the Prophet, not the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but rather wise people generally, in this principle, they say, treat your child like a servant, almost like a slave. What do you understand from that?
Discipline.
Discipline, okay.
There's an element of nurturing there in terms of kind of teaching and educating and kind of showing them the way.
Okay. Definitively an aspect of adab. Starting to teach them about the good and the bad, because they are now they have the capability to understand.
Sure.
Right? And so that's where we start them teaching about discipline, start teaching them about some of the rulings of Islam, some of the halal, some of the haram, some of the adab as well. It's beautiful that we start to teach them about salah in that very moment.
Yep.
Because salah is literally what keeps you grounded. Right? As an adult, you're busy, you're running you lose yourself, you indulge in your busy life, especially in the West and whatnot, and then you come hayya ala salah, you hear hayya ala al-falah, come to prayer, come to success, meaning time out.
Yep.
I need my 5 minutes, I need my 10 minutes, not to go and smoke or something, but rather I need to reconnect to Allah. So you see that in every single pillar of Islam, there is a reminder of discipline. And it's not over-discipline, because some people can be over-disciplined. And I'm not that fan of these, absolute productivity gurus that, will make kind of use of every second without any, plan to the last minute little detail and whatnot, because sometimes if you do that and then it doesn't go to plan, or it doesn't go according to your plan, and nothing goes according to your plan, everything goes according to Allah's plans in the end of the day, and you lose your mind, you develop mental health issues, man. But having said that, we can't be like no care in the world. So you see that every pillar in Islam teaches you some form of discipline. The Shahada has some form of discipline. Salah, 5 times a day. You got to make time. Time out. Then you have Sawm or Zakah. Before that, you have to be disciplined in the way you give Zakah.
Yep.
And that you have to share from what Allah has given you in your money. This is monetary discipline, right? Then you have discipline in Sawm for a whole month. You're literally restraining yourself from eating and drinking during the set hours. A huge discipline, form of discipline. Hajj,
Yep.
form of discipline, right? They say Hajj is the one ibadah that every type of ibadah sort of comes together in that one act.
Yeah.
Money you spend, time you spend, the traveling that you do, the salah, the ibadah,
Yeah. Sacrifice.
every form. And so this is the age where we start to introduce these forms of discipline. Now, what I don't want for people to understand is that this is like literally, I need to treat like my child like a slave. A'udhu billah. So you carry on with the care and the love and the nurturing that you developed from the first 7 years,
Yeah.
but you introduce something different now, which is the aspect of muhasabah, the aspect of being reflective, the aspect of being disciplined, that there is an order, that there is a way, that there is halal, there is haram, etc., etc., etc. And one more thing, one more beautiful thing. Treat your child like a servant. What does a servant do with his master? The servant follows the master everywhere he goes, right?
Yeah.
Take your children with you. Take your children with you, fathers especially. You go to the masjid, take them to the masjid. You go to a talk, take them to the talk. Oh, they don't understand anything. That's not about it. It's not about understanding. I mean, they will take away something, but it's about sitting there. That's the environment you want them to be in.
Yep.
It's about learning from the adab of the mashayikh, of the tullabul ilm, of the students of knowledge. Being in that environment.
Yeah.
Take them to the supermarket, take them to shopping so they can start learning mathematics or maths, right? In practical form.
Yeah.
Give them a task, give me a rough estimate of how much our shopping will cost before you pay. Stuff like that. Take them with you, develop that part. You go for trips, you go somewhere, take them with you. That's the time. Take them out, especially the sons, but also the daughters, let them be part of. That's where you introduce these kind of things and you expose them in a safe way to the world.
Definitely. No, Jazakallah khair, Ustad, that was beautiful. So now we're into the final 7 years of this cycle, typically kind of 13, 14. What does that look like?
Okay, so at that time, most children will have reached the age of bulugh. And so what we need to know now is that our responsibilities of tarbiyah are still there. They still live with you, but they have reduced to reminders more than anything, because they are now responsible.
Yeah.
So most scholars agree that children before the age of bulugh, puberty, but from an Islamic perspective, right? Which is, obviously it has biological factors and et cetera, but it's around that age. Until they reach that point, their good deeds count, but their bad deeds don't, which is a huge blessing.
Yeah.
You start with the head start, like you come like, mashallah, this mountain of hasanat, of good deeds, and so on and so forth, but no sins, right? At that point, when they reach bulugh, they're responsible. They're responsible for their wudu, for their salah, and so it's about, we're now entering a form of reminders. The problem is that many parents wait until that point to start with tarbiyah.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying the train is gone, but you're definitively late to the game.
So are you saying that maybe the middle 7 years that you referred to is coming later than it should?
Oh, definitely. I mean, most of the problems that we have with youngsters today is with the lack of responsibility and tarbiyah from the ages of the first 14 years, if you want, right? So most of the problem at that point, when we look at the youngsters of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were leading armies, they were responsible, they're getting married, they are getting their own families, they were traders, businessmen, entrepreneurs, they were.
Yeah, of course.
That was a different scenario. And so your role now as a father, as a mother, is the role of a remind, you remind, and a friend. They always need to know that there is a place I can come and ask for help and ask for support and ask for nasiha, advice, and so on and so forth. We need to know that they are responsible now.
Sure.
And that you cannot force certain things out of youngsters, because you know how it works. You force something out of youngsters, and the answer is usually equal force, even if it's not physical. So may Allah protect us. Obviously talking is easy, but Allahumma musta'an. Realizing that is important.
Of course, it's really interesting because you've got this principle, and the way I'm now translating that is into effectively some sort of structure, some sort of approach. And so we've discussed as adults, as Murabis ourselves, how you could take that approach, whether it be with your children, whether it be with your own children, or whether it be when you're mentoring a young person, whatever it might be. What I'm quite keen to understand is that, could this principle be used as a way of structuring a curriculum or a curricula within a school setting, within an educational setting?
Yeah. Definitively. And we'll speak a little bit more about curriculums and maybe the ideal curriculum in the next episode, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But it is definitively giving you some guidance.
Sure.
And funny enough, or quite the irony really, that modern psychology and, philosophy of education, so if you read about stages, and so you will find the first part about the emotional literacy, will find like behavior and adab and so on, so in that late primary school stage, early secondary school stage, and later on, it matches almost like the latest research. And this is a principle that is easy. 777. It's there in the Islamic books of history and pedagogy that were written like hundreds of years ago. Sometimes, this principle is sort of from the formative period of Islam, like literally 1,300 years old. Simple in its inception, yet very, very effective, and very, very up to modern research. If you want to put it that way. The real important thing here is that we always remember about the key word tarbiyah that we mentioned in the first word, because tarbiyah is like a puzzle. I know we mentioned like a tree, and we mentioned that the earth as well from the Hadeeth, but imagine it as a puzzle as well. Responsibility of tarbiyah will always remain with you as a parent.
100%.
You cannot shift the blame onto teachers or anything else.
100%.
Right? That is the asl. That's one. Two, we need to realize that tarbiyah is an ongoing thing. It's not something that is during school hours and it doesn't apply when they are home. And number three, you can, as you said rightly, you can outsource certain aspects of tarbiyah to experts or specialists. That's why we have schools. Like, you want to fix your car, you bring them to garage. You fix your teeth, you go to a dentist, because they're the experts. Teachers are experts in their fields, and so that's what we try to make use of. And we have that principle even from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where he grew up with Halima Sa'adiyah and so on and so forth. They used to send the children out for a time being. So there's nothing new, but it's like a puzzle. And if you have one puzzle piece, meaning like if you bring your child to a madrasa or to an Islamic school, that's just one puzzle piece.
That's right.
You have many puzzle pieces to make this puzzle of tarbiyah complete. You cannot think of it like this one puzzle piece, I got it, I'm paying for it, I've done my duty. That's not how it works. That's one puzzle piece. It's a big one, but it's only one. There are other puzzle pieces that need to be there. And inshallah, we'll speak a little bit more maybe about some of the puzzle pieces.
And actually, inshallah, maybe this series will bring the pieces together, and
some inshallah, of the pieces, inshallah.
Many of the pieces, and start putting the puzzle together, inshallah.